Good afternoon, travel advisors, and welcome to today's training session. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to join us. We do appreciate it. I'm Doug Cook. I'm the publisher of Jack's Facts Travel Marketing, and I will be your moderator today. And today I'm joined by Katie Daly, president of Katie Daly's Ireland. And Katie has just returned from a trip to Ireland, so she is going to share her experiences with you and talk about why now is the best time to book your clients for a trip to Ireland. Just a couple housekeeping notes before we get started. Katie has supplied a handout there that you will see on your screen that is available for your download. Please feel free to do that. Also, Katie will be available for questions after her presentation, so please do send us those in the space provided. And lastly, today's training session is being recorded, so no need to take copious notes. We will send you a copy of the recording, or you can always go to our website, which is www.jacksfacts.com, and underneath the Travel Advisor menu tab, you will find our menu of recorded webinars. And with that, let me turn things over to Katie. Katie, it's all yours.
Thank you, Doug. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, and thank you all for taking time out of your day to join us. It's so great to be presenting. This presentation was proposed a few times this year, but now we know that the time is right, and we are so happy to be presenting and bringing Ireland to you today. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Katie Daly, and I am the owner of Katie Daly's Ireland. So once again, Díomh tá fáilte rót agus gur mhaith go the bheling na nu. Thank you so much for joining us today. So Katie Daly's Ireland, we are a private Ireland-only destination specialist that captures Ireland, its people and its experiences in handcrafted, custom-made tours for individuals and small groups. We're based in New York City and we've staff on the ground in Ireland. So we have over 20 years experience in Irish tours and hospitality. So this is just a little snippet of, I think it's, well, for me, it's important to know the people behind the brand. So on the left is where I grew up in Kells in County Meath in Ireland's ancient East. Of course, it was just Kells, County Meath back when I grew up before it got all fancy, but that's my home. That's where I came from, right in the heart of the countryside. In the fields, even though I'm in New York City actually longer than I'm in Ireland, but this is still very much home. And that's my little Throwback Tuesday on the right. That's my first trip on my first tour of the Ring of Kerry. That's taken 46 years ago. I was 3 years of age. That's me in the blue shorts with my family. So just my little Throwback Tuesday. So the next slide, I'll just introduce it because it's going to go straight into a little video. As you know, Ireland has reopened to international travellers on July 19th. Wonderful news, and we were delighted to welcome clients to Ireland. Our first clients post-COVID were August 7th. So Ireland at the moment, and then as Doug mentioned, I've just returned after having a wonderful experience. 92% of the adult population are vaccinated, which is huge. And for those clients that we've had in Ireland from the beginning of August, they've all had a wonderful experience. So here's just a quick look at Tourism Ireland's new Press the Green Button video. So that's just, as I say, the little 30-second snippet and welcome back to Ireland from Tourism Ireland. So for those of you that are familiar with Ireland, you will be familiar with some of these brands. These are Tourism Ireland brands and pretty much are, if you will, our shop fronts. So just to introduce you to them pretty quickly, the Wild Atlantic Way, the longest coastline in Europe, and it runs from Malin Head in Donegal to Kinsale in County Cork. So in total, it's 1,500 mile long with a wealth of tourism product. Ireland's ancient east, again, that's where I'm from, it's east of the country. 5,000 years in 5 days is feasible to do on an itinerary. So notable sites would include Newgrange, Kilkenny, Glendalough, a lot of significant sites telling stories, secrets, or different battles throughout Irish history. Then the Hidden Heartlands is probably not as well known. And again, I think this was launched just pre-COVID. It's more rural, unexplored, picturesque villages in the heart of Ireland, but it's still less than 2 hours from the major cities. So like some of the hotels would be like Wineport Lodge in County Westmeath, or Lochrain Castle in County Leitrim, or Markree Castle in County Sligo. So it's well known for its activity breaks, you know, it's walking, cycling, hiking, biking, and greenways. And then Northern Ireland, Embrace the Giant Spirit. Again, this was launched just pre-COVID. So it's got some amazing tourism product in Northern Ireland, as well as the big cities of Belfast and Derry. They've done just phenomenal work on kind of local experiences on the ground in all 6 counties in Northern Ireland. And then we have Dublin, of course. So Dublin was just, Lonely Planet just included Dublin as a must-see city for 2022. It's been named friendliest city by TripAdvisor twice. Look at it, it's got a wealth of culture, arts, music, food, literary, festivals every month in Dublin. So it's just an amazing experience. And as I say, I just spent some time there and can certainly attest to that. So that's just our shop fronts in Ireland, if you will. So we're going to just move on to some of the beautiful accommodations that await your clients in Ireland. The first on the left is Ballyfin in County Laois. It's a blue book, it's a 5-star property, and I think what's amazing about this property is there's 20 rooms in it, and it sits on 600 acres. So plenty of room for social distancing there if necessary, but you know, pretty amazing and pretty amazing property, and again a member of Blue Book. Delphi Lodge. Delphi Lodge dates back to 1830. It was a fishing village to Lord Balnahinch back in the day. That sits on 1,000 acres, which just amazing grounds. Ashford and Adair, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. And then Huntington Castle in County Carlow, and that's on the east side of the country. That Huntington Castle actually dates back to 1625. So you can do a tour of the house, a tour of the gardens, and they've also opened up a wing of the castle for you to stay in. So the owners of the castle now, they're descendants of the original inhabitants. And then Fonnet House in Donegal, up in on the northwest of Ireland. Absolutely beautiful, amazing experience. Artist paradise, and they have actually some self-catering properties available too. So I think that just these pictures will give you just a sense of the amazing accommodations on offer. Just some more pictures. Self-catering in Park Nasilla out in the beautiful, outside the beautiful village of Sneem, way out on the Ring of Kerry. Balnahinch Castle in Connemara, a member of Original Irish Hotels. I actually stayed there in 2009. Beautiful, beautiful property. It only has, I think it's 48 rooms, and again, it sits on 700 acres. Loch Aina out in Connemara as well. Now I think this is where I'm going to retire to, this part of the world. This is just simply amazing. Again, it's another fishing village out in Galway. So the Lord at the time would have been Lord Balnahinch, and some of these properties like Delphi Lodge and Loch Aina would have been his fishing villages. So that property is just an amazing, it's just a walker's and a hiker's paradise, but there's only 13 rooms in it. Just to give you, you know, a scope of just the size of some of these places. And then to the west, to the east there, we go back to Dublin, and that's just the Westbury Hotel in Dublin City. Fabulous 5-star hotel, one of the many, but this, the Westbury for me, just is probably one of my favorite hotels. And it's just a superb location, like literally walk out in front of the hotel and you're on Grafton Street. Glamping, some glamping experiences for those looking for something a little different. We've Finlock in County Fermanagh in Northern Ireland, and a relatively new product out on the Aran Islands, a new experience, glamping on the Aran Islands. This year also, just to note again for any of you who are familiar with the Aran Islands, you used to have to go out to Uachtarard, which is about 45 minutes outside Galway, to take the ferry. They now have ferries from the dock. They now have a ferry from the dock in Galway City. So it's great for clients. They can just take the ferry from the city instead of having to trek out to Uachtarard, and that's starting from early next spring. Okay, sorry. So these are just a look at some Irish castles for private rental. And again, some of these, like Lismore Castle, is just exclusively for private rental. It's not available. It's not a hotel. It's just a private rental hire. Luttleston Castle in County Dublin, Glynn Castle, Kilkee Castle, and then we've Crom Castle in County Fermanagh. And the Earl of Erne and his wife still live in Crom Castle, so you can actually rent out the entire castle. You can rent out a wing of the castle, and you can also have the opportunity to have them as your hosts. And you know, when you take into account like a group or, you know, special occasion staying here, it doesn't actually cost, you know, as much money as one would think. So again, just options for those you know, super private deluxe experiences that your clients may be looking for. This is just, again, to give you another, this is a self-catering property that sits on Cliff House Hotel in County Waterford. I just think it's amazing. I think to look at it, maybe apart from the cloudy sky, you would think you were down in the Riviera or something like that, but it's a really amazing property. And again, just to give you an idea of the different style of property that's out there. And also great options for clients that are looking for self-catering but want on-site hotel amenities. And there's just two great examples there. One is Muckross Park, which Muckross Park Hotel is just less than a mile outside Killarney town. And they've got some great self-catering properties. And then Sheehan Falls in Kenmare, that's one of the cottages in Sheehan Falls. So again, just to keep in mind, and we've actually a lot of self-catering inquiries for next year. This is another beautiful Bluebrook property in County Cork, dates back from 1720, and again, this is available for private hire. The house and the mews, or the house or the mews, and relatively speaking, it is not that expensive, like for a group of maybe 10 to 20 people. So again, just to really show you the different options we have available for your clients. Okay. So transport options. Obviously we do self-drive options, and we also we would have sedan vehicles there on the left for parties of 2, and then the Vianos would suit 4 to 5 people, and then you know, depending, different size vehicles for smaller groups, all the way up to full size coaches. So this gentleman here, Jimmy, was the driver that met my first clients, my first post-COVID clients back in August. And this just is I think it's a very special picture for me anyway, because it was just the start of recovery, and it was so wonderful. And these clients had an absolute amazing time. So that's our driver there at Dublin Airport on August 7th, earlier this year. So now just let's have a little look at food. And, you know, surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, for those that have been there recently, Ireland is a foodie's paradise, and we're fast becoming one of the top countries in Europe for food experiences. So, you know, I guess not only are we, you know, is there food festivals and food markets and food tours and foraging tours, but just our whole food culture is changing. And like, even in terms of the hotels, and if it's not one of those beautiful country hotels that don't have their own garden, if it's a city hotel, they very, very much work with the farmers and work with local producers. And, you know, I just, even this trip post-COVID, and then my last trip pre-COVID, you'd see on the menus in Ireland, it's more like a little where the food actually came from, and certainly down the country, what farm it came from. So, you know, as I say, we've got some amazing markets, we've got some amazing workshops. Like, where else would you have a seaweed discovery workshop and learn about seaweed and how to cook it and the benefits of it? You know, as I say, Dingle festivals, Dingle Food Festival, just to name but one. So lots of different food experiences in Ireland. And this is just some kind of alternative food adventures, if you will. So that's the Oyster Farm in County Galway, where you can also tour, and we can do on-site dining experiences. Catch and Cook, where you can go out and catch your fish and come in and cook it and have it that afternoon for dinner. That's an early start, just for any of you thinking of doing that. I believe it's sailing like at 5:30 or 6 in the morning. And then we have on the right hand side is Tracy from Tracy's Farmhouse Kitchen. A wonderful experience on the beautiful shores of Strangford Lough in Northern Ireland. She has a wonderful 17th century farmhouse, and she invites you to come in and pick the food in her garden and cook. So as we mentioned here, all you need to do is bring your apron and bring your appetite. And wonderful experiences, even for people of groups of 2 up to, you know, larger groups. But she's a fabulous food ambassador for Ireland. So just back to, we've been known in Ireland for our drink and for producing fine whiskies and fine stouts. But, you know, we have a little bit of a gin revolution going on in Ireland. We have I think we're at 68 different gins currently been produced in Ireland. So a gin-essence, we like to call it. That's Bushmills Distillery on the left, Dingle Distillery. There it's more of a rustic experience. The left is Brehon Farmhouse, and that is a farm that working farm, and they actually brew their own beer. That's in County Monaghan. So just another wonderful kind of alternative experience for your clients. And just on the right hand side is Slane Whiskey. So that's me on my trip there last month with Gary Byrne from Slane Distillery. So Slane Castle, you know, just as an aside on that, Slane Castle, it's a fabulous castle sitting on 15. Slane Castle, the distillery and the land around encompasses 1,500 acres. So just to give you like an idea of the size. I first set foot in Slane in 1986 to see Queen play. And at that time, Slane can host, and still do, can host 80,000 people. So they're celebrating 40 years of rock concerts this year. So everybody from Queen to Phil Lynott to U2 have stayed there. And now they've opened up the castle, you know, for private experiences, for private dinners, and also for, you know, to stay at the castle. So this distillery is just very different. It's a fabulous thing to do. It's only about 30 minutes from Dublin. It's a great thing to do also going from Dublin to Belfast for clients. But you're touring the distillery and you're just looking out at the beautiful green fields of the Boyne Valley and Slane Castle in the background. So it's just something different, and it was a fabulous tour. Just some more uniquely Irish tour experiences. I guess we're big for our screen tourism. Any Game of Thrones fans out there? That's the Dark Hedges in Northern Ireland. On the right is Skerries Mill, so it's the only windmill in Europe, and watermill and bakery. And that's just north of County Dublin. And you know, it's amazing. You're in Dublin city, but 20 minutes you're out in the countryside, and the town or the village of Skerries is just 20 minutes north of Dublin. Then on the left we have the town of Cove here, and you see the little cottages are just, the houses on the left are just a little bit like the Painted Ladies in San Francisco. But out there, the island out behind the ship is Spike Island. And Spike Island is pretty much an amazing experience. It's a 15-minute ferry ride out to the island, and it's over 1,000 years of history. It was a fortress, a monastery, and believe it or not, at one stage it was the biggest prison in the world. So just so much history, and they've got some amazing tours out there. So for clients in Cove or Cork, and that's the, you know, if that's kind of something that they'd like to do, we call it like Ireland's Alcatraz. And then on the right, back up to the Hidden Heartlands, that's Clonlis House. Over 800 years of history, and this beautiful historic house sits on 1,000 acres. And again, the descendants of the family still live there. So again, it can be for a lunch stop, it can be for a private dining experience, and they also have self-catering. So this is just something else to offer your clients. On the left is we call it the Stairway to Heaven, the beautiful Quilca Walk in Cavan. So, you know, just again, to keep in mind, just different activities for your clients. On the right is Beyond the Bridge tour with our fabulous tour guide in Northern Ireland, Mark Rogers from Daly Tours. That little cottage is at the other side of the Carrick-a-Rede Bridge. So you take a tour over the bridge with Mark, and you go in and hear about what life was like for these fishermen back in the day, and you might even get a little tibble of whiskey along the way. And on the left is Jamesy from Glenshane Country Farm up in the Sperrin Mountains. Just again, wonderful experiences, and we've included in some of our programs for next year for our smaller groups. He trains sheepdogs, and you know, the last time I was chatting to him, the sheepdog had pups. So he's training some of the pups in English and some of the pups in Irish, which I thought was pretty amazing. So again, it's in the Sperrin Mountains. Just that picture will just give you an image, just to get a sense of how beautiful it is. Lots of sailing, different sailing experiences, kayaking, and of course golf, home to 1/3 of the world's links courses. So it is a golfer's paradise. Okay, so last month I had, after a year and a half, I took a trip to Ireland, and it was just amazing. And if any of you want more information on it, check out my blog. So it was wonderful for lots of reasons. I actually got to see my family, of course, that I hadn't seen since the start. I got to meet suppliers and friends. But this trip, I actually got to meet clients in Ireland. So the gang at the top were on a 13-night chauffeur program. So I met them on day 3. I brought them down to my hometown. We had drinks in cabs. We're all having a little toast, and we did a tour of the town with a local tour guide who also happens to be a friend of mine. And it's amazing. It was just such a wonderful day because I actually found out more about my town that I didn't even know. But just to meet these clients in Ireland, and I've spoken to them since, as I say, I met them on day 3, and they travelled to Belfast. They travelled all length and breadth of Ireland, and they had such a wonderful, wonderful time. And they said that they really felt they really forgot about COVID, that they felt they were just living like things were back to normal. Not to say that we're relaxed on COVID, but it was just such a wonderful experience. And the lady next to me went, it was her first time to Ireland, and she wanted to see where her ancestors were buried. It was a graveyard up north, and she said the guides were just amazing. They couldn't find a grave. It was an old graveyard, old markings on it. And she had an old picture that the driver pulled up, and they were able to look at the picture from maybe 30 years ago, zoom in and see, okay, there was a wall there, and they were able to eventually find her ancestor's grave. And this was her first time in Ireland. And it was just pretty amazing to be part of that. And she had such a wonderful, wonderful time. That's made just at the GPO in Dublin. Fabulous visitor attraction, lots of history, right on O'Connell Street, eating my way through the afternoon tea at the Marion. So just some snippets from Ireland. Just some of the hotels that I stayed in, and as I say, I just thought they really, their post-COVID procedures were pretty amazing. That's with Yvonne at the Shelburne on the left. That's just checking into the Dillon, and outside on the steps of the Marion on the right. So just a little snippet of my trip. So I was in Ireland, I think it was just for 10 days. And I think during the 10 days, I think we might have had 2 hours of light rain. So the sun was shining. I just could not believe my good fortune. The sun shone most of the time. 2 takeaways from Dublin, and I'm already incorporating this. You do not want to drive in Dublin City. I wanted the convenience of having a car kind of to get in and out of the city. I will not do that again. I just found it very, very difficult to drive. Plus, I drive in New York City all the time. I don't want to drive in Dublin ever again. And secondly, I did a tour with Pat Liddy. We did a tour. It was maybe about an hour and a half, and I'm just highly recommending that to our clients for future trips, because it just gives you just an insight into Dublin that you probably won't get any other way. So look at it, we're ready. We're so happy to be back doing what we've loved. We've had about five or six groups already in Ireland, all small groups, but have came back saying it was just a wonderful experience. We're working on 2022. we're so delighted to be back, and we would welcome the opportunity to work with you, our valued travel suppliers, and help you bring your clients on a trip of a lifetime to Ireland. So thank you all for your time, and welcome any questions. And here's all my social media there. As I say, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. We have a New York office toll free, and of course for clients that are traveling, we have folks on the ground in Ireland. So Gormila Mahagat, thank you again for your time, and I look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you much. Thank you very much, Katie. It's great to hear that Tourism to Ireland is back, and I was especially happy to hear from you that you've had a number of clients that have gone over and come back with rave reviews. So I think things are boding well for 2022.
Absolutely. And I will add, Justin, that the process even of going to Ireland was so simple for fully vaccinated travellers. No testing is required. Once you're fully vaccinated, you just need to complete your passenger locator form, present that at the airport, and off you go. Like right now, they are looking for your vaccination details for indoor dining, but you know, I think that's the same in a lot of places. But the whole process was so easy. You do, of course, need to have a COVID test returning to the States. And, you know, we'll help you with that, because it's only certain companies now that if the rules changed, and they just changed by the just before I arrived there. So there's now certain companies that that you must book with. So we look at clients' itinerary, and we, as I say, we know things are changing, but we look at their program and say, okay, this is where they need to go to get their test.
Excellent. That's great information. Any other protocols on the ground? Are face masks or masks required indoors, or what are the protocols as far as that's
Like
concerned?
pretty much masks are required, you know, indoors, and it's probably a little bit like here, you know, you wear them until you get to your table, and then you take them off. You know, it's the same. What I was there just I left for New York October 4th, so the venues really hadn't opened up at that stage, the music venues. And that was one thing actually that some of the clients were saying, you know, we really missed out on Irish music. So they were obviously able to dine in restaurants and bars, but in terms of music venues, but they're all from the 22nd of October gone, all remaining restrictions were lifted.
Oh, good.
You know, overall, Ireland has been very cautious with opening. It's been very cautious with closing down, and I think they've done. I think I was so pleasantly surprised at just how amazing the experience was. You know, overall.
Excellent. Happy to hear that.
COVID.
Sure, sure. I think you may have addressed this, but somebody's asking, is it easy to arrange that COVID test that's necessary for return to the US?
It is, and we can give you the location. So, you know, there's one in Dublin City, there's one in Dublin Airport, there's one near Shannon, Galway, Cork. So we look at the itinerary and say, okay, this is when you need to get it, because you need to have it done 3 days in advance of travel. So we'll give you the location, but this is something you have to book yourself, for the simple reason that it needs to go to your phone. So clients need to know that to your phone or to an email. So you need to have this yourself. So we can't book it for clients. We will help them, tell them when, what time, where, what's the easiest, but they need to book it themselves, because you will be asked for your details on return.
Understood. Great. Another question here for you. If you know, what are the stipulations for booking families with children, assuming the children aren't vaccinated?
So right now, that's not, I mean, we have children booked for next year, when they, to be honest, I think once the parents are fully vaccinated, the children are okay. I'm working on some details and just trying to get a little clarity on that, to be honest. Because I think depending on the ages of the children, they may need a negative COVID test. And again, that information is changing rapidly. You know, so like as in right here in New York now, they're saying like in the next couple of days, they should be approving the vaccine for children under 12. So as that changes, we will update and let people know accordingly. And I think it's important that people know well in advance, like what the situation is. You know, so that we do know that things are changing. But right now, once the adults in the group are vaccinated, the children are okay too.
Sure, good. And like you said, that's ever changing. That's going to be
ever changing. Yeah. And it's one of the things we all need. We know that we just need to be readily able to adapt and change and go with the flow.
Exactly. Okay, great. One other question here. Are you still able to clear immigrations in Dublin for return to the US?
Yes. And what a huge thing that is. Oh my God, it's just so amazing to do that in Dublin. I came back in October, so okay, it wasn't super busy, and obviously the States wasn't open to European travellers. It is opening this month. So a very, very seamless process. Because there's no queues in immigration. I will say, and again, for everyone that's booking with us, we will be reiterating this: you need 3 hours at Dublin Airport, because you need to check in. You need to check in, obviously do security, and then you need to clear immigration. So you're talking about security lines twice. But the beauty of it is, once you cross over onto the plane, you're technically on American soil. So it just makes, when you get out at your final destination in the States, you've cleared immigration, and that's huge.
That's fantastic.
Amazing.
Speaking of the flight process, somebody's asking how long is the flight to Ireland? I'm assuming from New York.
From New York, it is actually going over. It was only 5.5 hours. And again, that was such a lovely flight. I was amazed. Probably not what I was expecting. I thought there would be, all they asked you was to keep your mask on. While you were eating, obviously you took your mask off. But the later, I always try myself to get a later night flight, just to, you know, it makes it just a lot easier. And coming back then, you know, maybe a little bit longer. I think it was like an 8-hour flight coming back. But so again, that 8-hour flight, and I was, you know, probably a little tired, out and about the couple of nights before I left. But when you actually arrive then, just to have cleared immigration, you know, was amazing. But very easy. I flew Aer Lingus. There's several airlines. We know obviously that a number of routes won't, you know, pre-COVID there was a lot more airlines coming into Ireland and a lot more routes, but we're steadily seeing some of these coming back too, which is great. And I think as demand grows, these airlines will be back, you know, a lot more, offering a lot more flights.
Frequencies and flights,
absolutely. Yeah,
I agree. Great. Do you happen to know if the airport in Shannon is receiving flights from the US?
It depends. At the moment, it's, you know, anything we're kind of working on next year. Even for itineraries, even though, yes, they are, because I have clients traveling in March and I have clients traveling in April that are in now to Shannon.
Okay,
so
great.
it depends on the airline, and it depends on the time and the month.
Sure.
So we're hopeful that Shannon service will open up a lot more as demand grows. We're hoping that it will open up a lot more.
Okay.
It's such a lovely airport to fly in and out of.
Perfect. Let's see. That looks like it for questions. So I guess
Okay.
we'll wrap this up. Katie, thank you very much. Any final words for our travel advisor
Oh,
audience?
look, it's just, yeah, as I say, Ireland is waiting for you. We're ready, willing, delighted to work with you and create fantastic experiences for your clients. They're going to have an amazing time. And we're just so delighted to be back doing what we love and would absolutely love to hear from you. So thank you, and thank you all very much for your time today.
Great. Thank you, Katie, and I will echo that. Thank you, travel advisors, for joining us. Please do keep an eye on your email. We have several training sessions coming up over the next few weeks I think you'll be interested in. But that will wrap it up for today's. Everybody have a great afternoon, and we will see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.